Welcome everybody to ChimiComics. We're doing our novel Nuke segment.
Yep.
And tell the people what we got today, Wyatt.
Today, our second book in the Halo series, Halo, The Fall of Reach. Halo, The Fall of Reach by Eric Nylund.
Yes.
So, Riley, what'd you think of this book? Without spoiling anything.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Very good.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give it? And before we do that, what are some of the things you like?
Well, I liked the very beginning. It kind of gave me like a Hunger Games type theme with all the kids, but they work together, you know. So I enjoyed that. I wish that part was a little bit longer, but
there will be flashbacks back to their training in other books as we continue on with this series. So you will get to see more. Like one of them's really cool. Like in First Strike novel, there's one. I'll just wait till you get there because it's really good.
Okay. And I thought the ship battles were written pretty well. Like they weren't. I don't know anything about naval warfare or anything like that, but I don't feel like it was much over my head most of the time. You know.
Eric Nylund, he's very good with that because he wrote the Impossible Life short story we did, and that was all the action of it was pretty much ship battles.
Yeah, it was about like that. Pretty good stuff. I give it a 9.5.
This is my favorite book ever, and I read a lot of books, so this gets a 10 for me. I have to give it a 10. My mom, actually, I got this in 5th grade. She knew I liked playing Halo. Like, I was crazy about Halo Reach at the time. Yep. And she saw this book at Goodwill, and she bought it and brought it home to me, and I read it, and I was like, this is great.
Well, that explains why the cover wasn't there.
Yeah, I've read it since 5th grade, and I tore up my original copy. Riley ordered me a new one, and but yeah, I've read this book probably 8 to 10 times.
That's crazy.
It's just like my favorite movie. Like your favorite movie is Spider-Man. You can watch it whenever it's on. I can read this book whenever and still be entertained. So yeah, perfect 10 for me. Love this book. And now
I like the way it's broken down too. There's like 37 chapters or whatever it is, and that makes it easier for me to just pick it up and read right quick when I have free time. You know, instead of like, oh, this chapter is 30 pages. You know, so
it's like comics.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, so I guess we're gonna go ahead and get into the plot and spoiler warning now. So
now it's time for the fun part.
Oh yes. So there's a really cool foreword in this printing. This is the 2010 printing, and it's just about the development of the book. Did you read it? Yeah, it's just about how Eric Nylund didn't have a lot of time to write this. He only had
didn't they crank it out in 4 months?
Yeah, he only had 4 months to write it.
That's crazy.
And he pretty much set the entire backstory of the Halo universe. He
didn't have 4 months to write it. It went from concept to print in 4 months.
So he talks about the team from Banshee and Microsoft and their new book publishing and how this was the thing that kicked it all off and how he was supported and how everything was great. Well, actually, it wasn't Eric who wrote this. This was by Frank O'Connor, who's one of the heads at 343 Industries. So he's just talking about how Halo...
How amazing Eric is.
And how, Eric is really good. Bow to Eric. But yeah, so that's cool. Then we kick in with an awesome prologue that just throws you immediately into the Human Covenant War. The only character that's who will be there throughout the book is Master Chief. They don't name any of the other Spartans with him, but they're basically on a mission on a planet behind enemy lines, and they're going to lure the enemy away so another team of Spartans can plant a nuke. So when the enemy ships come down to land, they'll drop their shields, nuke will go boom and blow up a whole bunch of them.
Yep. And this whole thing takes place this prologue takes place like 17 years before Halo. So it's like the prime time of the Spartan teams, pretty much. It's like their glory days.
The war is in full swing, and the UNSC is still really strong. Like, they've lost a lot of planets, but they still have a lot more, so they're not like really desperate at this time. They're being beat back, but they're still giving a hell of a fight because these Spartans, man, is the action scenes in this are really well written when you think so. And I love how they switch to different ammo types and they have backup plans upon
Shredder
backup
rounds.
plans. Yeah, turns an assault rifle into a shotgun pretty much with a lot of longer range. And
before I forget,
yeah,
I know they mentioned in this book the Spartan-III program. Like, they don't actually say Spartan-III, but you know that's what they're talking about. So, at what point do they actually finish that program? Like, when do they graduate? Do you know what year that was?
That would have been in the 2540s, and it was an entirely separate program from the Spartan-IIs. The 3s were mass-produced. Like, Colonel Ackerson, who you remember him from this book, who's kind of the antagonist to Halsey within Oni.
Ackerson?
Yeah, Colonel Ackerson. He's the guy who was like real disrespectful to Chief when they were doing the debriefing after Sigma Octanus, and his men were also the ones who attacked him during the exercise. Yeah, he wants his programs to get more glory pretty much than Halsey. He's pretty much her chief rival in Oni. And he wants to take the Spartan-IIs, who are really good, but they're really expensive, and there's only one class of them. And he wants to mass-produce super soldiers that can be used for suicide missions to pretty much slow down the Covenant advance.
But the difference in his program is that he wants to use soldiers. Right?
No, he still uses kids.
He does.
They still kidnap kids, yeah. They kidnap, but the difference is they kidnap war orphans. Kids whose parents have been killed by the Covenant, and they ask them if they want to join before, and they all say yes. So,
okay,
yeah, and I mean they're easy to take because no one really misses them, as bad as that sounds. But that's the main point of that is in the fourth book that we'll read, Ghost of Onyx.
Do they get a super serum at all?
They do. They get It's not a super serum. It's a whole bunch of different surgical augmentations.
Like, they inject them with stuff and like give them Wolverine bones and
very differently, but yeah, it's sort of. Yes, no, maybe.
There's a bone coating.
Yeah, they do get augmentations. Yes, and the augmentations are better in the Spartan-III program, so the success rate is a lot higher. And
better. They don't come out as strong as a Spartan-II.
They come out strong enough. You're right, not as strong, but I mean it's a negligible difference.
But they're like faster, right?
They're faster,
yeah. The suit is more powerful.
No, the suits aren't more powerful. They're smaller. They can blend in better with people for infiltration.
I read something that like said they were faster and that the suit was stronger than a Spartan-II armor suit.
That's Spartan-IV. Spartan-IIIs didn't even get Milner. They had an armor system called SPY, which stands for Semi-Powered Infiltration.
So who do we see in the later games?
Those are Spartan-IIIs, but they have Milner. The Spartan-IIIs had several companies, and the companies were all deployed together. But some of when during training, they found teams and Spartans who would be better off of that lineup instead of doing suicide missions. Noble Team and Noble Six, they all come from that. So those Spartans you see in Halo Reach dead are other Spartans like that. Mm-hmm. So that's that.
So who's the Spartan-IVs you're talking about?
Spartan-IVs are all in Halo 4. Like, they're the ones who are actual soldiers, gotcha. And they're not kidnapped, and they're a highly publicized thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Alright, so this prologue's pretty awesome. Banshees show up and attack them, and they have these big things called fugosses they buried, which are barrels with grenades at the bottom, and when they detonate them, it pretty much sends shrapnel and stuff all up into the sky, and they use these to take out aircraft.
Yep.
Which is pretty cool. So then they go back up into space on a ship, and Master Chief wants to stay on the bridge to watch the Covenant and what they do to these planets. Because when the Covenant comes in and takes a world, they don't occupy it. They rain plasma fire from their ships from orbit and turn it into glass. So that's what they're doing. They carve religious symbols into the surface, like marks of shame and heretics, because their whole reason for taking out humanity is because
they're Nazis.
I mean, kinda space Nazis.
They're like space Nazis, yeah.
All right, so after that, we go back a good ways to 2517. The prologue took place in 2535, and we are with Lieutenant Junior Grade Jacob Keyes, who, if you played the games, you know he was Captain Keyes in Halo 1, and Dr. Catherine Elizabeth Halsey, and she's the one who is the head of the Spartan-II program. She came up with the augmentations, the kidnapping the kids, training them, and the Milner power armor that they end up getting. So, Keyes and Halsey are just here, and they're going to different worlds throughout the UNSC, and they're looking at children, pretty much, and meeting them, and basically just meeting test subjects, because Halsey wants to kidnap these kids and turn them into super soldiers, so they're meeting them firsthand before they do it, because she only has 75 slots in the program, and there's a couple hundred applicants. Not really applicants, but they're eligible. They're 150 eligible for the program. So yeah, they meet. The kid they meet is John 117, who's the Master Chief in the games. And he is bigger than all the other kids his age. He's really smart, too, because he says that they won't let him... Well, he says he doesn't want to play chess anymore because it's too easy to win, is what he says. And they won't let him play a game called Grav Ball because he's too good at it. But when Halsey and Keyes find him, they're playing King of the Hill. And he's just beating the crap out of all these other kids and throwing them off this little hill. And Halsey walks up to him and makes first contact. She shakes his hand and says, let's play a game. I'm going to flip this coin, and you tell me which side it lands on. If you call it right, then you get to keep it. It's an old quarter. It's a U.S. quarter. And she flips it, and he reaches out and grabs it and goes, Eagle, without even looking at it. So she's wondering if he's just really lucky, or if he picked the side he wanted to
Yeah,
to land.
if he saw it and grabbed it.
Personally, I think he saw it and grabbed it.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, but he is really lucky in the games, too. So.
Yeah.
So we'll have to...
He had a 50-50 shot.
yeah.
I mean...
You're right. Okay. I like before they get there how they show some backstory of Keyes organically. Like, it's not just a useless exposition. Like, he's asking why she picked him because she can fly the ship they're on herself, but the Navy wouldn't let her have it unless they had an officer on board, and she picks Keyes because
there's nothing miraculous about Keyes.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that he can keep a secret.
Yeah, there was an incident where one of his trainers in the academy got a bunch of people killed, and he refused to testify against him because he was my leader, and I don't want to betray him.
He didn't want to snitch.
Yeah, he ain't no snitch. He don't get no stitches. So yeah, and he is pretty shaken by that conversation because, I mean, she knows pretty much everything about him. But after that, after he starts realizing exactly what they're doing, so she has him transferred off of that. And she gives him a commission to full lieutenant for his troubles, by the way. And they meet up later on, and they have a kid, Commander Miranda Keyes. That's Halsey and Keyes' daughter, Jacob's daughter, from the games, from Halo 2 and 3.
When did they have the kid?
Just during the war.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Isn't she older than him, though?
No, she was very young. Like, she had papers published when she was like 15. Like, she was a genius, and she started working for Oni when she was 19.
But like at this point she's like middle-aged.
No, she's really young at this point. She was born in... Just give me a minute.
I just remember in the book it said something about her like looking...
That was after a little bit. That was years later during the Spartan-II program. Like, after they'd trained for a couple years, she's starting to show signs of age, but not really. Like, hold on, I'll get her birth date here.
Pull up the Halo Wiki app.
Yeah. She was born in 2492, and this is 2517. Okay, so she's mid-late 20s.
It's 25.
25, yeah. Good math. See, that's why I'm not a math major. So, yeah.
You said 92?
Yeah, 2492, and it's 2517 here. And Keyes just got out of pretty much military college. So he's around this...
A little bit younger.
Yeah.
She's a cougar.
I'm kidding.
Not quite. Not in the way I thought she was.
Yeah. So after this part where they meet John and she has keys transferred, she goes over and meets the other candidates. And next chapter is they're on the planet Reach, which is the center for the UNSC's military. And she's in an amphitheater, and the kids are all brought in, and she tells them that you have been called upon to serve. Like, she starts off saying some kind of UNSC registration regulation code, and she's like, wait a minute, these are kids, they're not going to get this. So she simplifies it down, just saying that you've been called upon to serve, and you're going to be the best that we can make you. You will defend Earth and all her colonies. And if you read the books, when you played Halo 3, whenever Cortana flashes in the game and gives a message, it's from this book. And some of the others.
What does she say? What do you mean?
Like, during Crow's Nest, when you're trying to flee, Cortana's like, you have been called upon to serve. Quoting Dr. Halsey.
Oh, okay. That's
you will
cool.
be the best that we can make you. So after I read this book and played Halo 3, I was just like nerding out because I was like, I know where that's from. Hey, I understood that reference. Let go of me.
I didn't know that Cortana was a copy of Halsey.
Yep.
I never.
And that's like the first time that's ever been done because AI in Halo, they're usually made from deceased people's brains that they harvest. So Halsey flash cloned 20.
What she did was pretty risky.
Yeah. But she did it because Halsey is a firm believer in
risk.
What's the saying? Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So yeah, next, Chief Petty Officer Franklin Mendez shows up, and he's a Special Forces grizzled drill instructor.
Do we ever see this guy again?
In some of the other books, but he never shows up in the games, unfortunately, because that would be badass, though.
I wish we could have gotten him instead of Sergeant Johnson.
I like Johnson, though.
I mean, I get it, but, like, I don't...
He would have been cooler, though. I get what you're saying, because he fits more in the lore. But, I mean, they wanted an alien Sergeant Apone.
Well, like, I was looking at the Halo 3 booklet the other day, because I was showing Kelly the game, and they had a bio for Sergeant Johnson, and it said, he knows Master Chief better than anybody else. I'm like, what? He does?
He doesn't really. I don't know what Bungie was thinking there.
I don't know a lot about Sergeant Johnson.
He has his own book, Halo Contact Harvest.
Okay.
We might do that.
He's in this book.
He is. And for a very... They're at the end for a little bit.
The very end.
Yeah, he shows up. But yeah. So Mendez shows up, and now we're in Section 2. Boot.
Get up, Boot.
Wake up, trainee! John rolled over in his cot, went back to sleep.
I said up, Boot.
Yep. They shock him with a cattle prod, pretty much.
Gosh.
Run them through a conveyor shower. And then they're up there doing exercises, and they do it for hours until, like, the kids are, like, puking.
Mm-hmm.
And then after PT... they take them into a classroom where the AI Deja, which is a dumb AI, which means that they can last forever, but they're kind of limited compared to the smart AIs like Cortana. But she teaches them about the Battle of Thermopylae with the 300 Spartans. And then they go to outside because they're going to a playground.
And they haven't gotten anything to eat, but when they get there, they get a carton of milk and a little pack of crackers.
Yeah, saltine crackers, pretty much. And John steals some from the girl next to him several times.
As you do.
Yep. So yeah, then Mendez is like, all right, trainees, let's go to the playground. It's just a short jog. And short jog turns out to be
3 miles.
3 miles. Short run turned into 2 miles. And the playground is just all these big poles and pulleys and rope bridges. It's like a huge obstacle course.
It's a ropes course. It's not a playground.
But they call it.
I know. I'm just saying, it's not a playground at all.
Anyway, so he puts them into teams, and they have to go and reach a bell and ring it. And if they ring the bell, then they get dinner. The last team to ring the bell does not get dinner. Mm-hmm. Chief is put on John, he's not a chief yet. He's put on a team with Sam, who's a blonde boy, and Kelly, who has really long blue hair at this point. Like, her hair's dyed. Like, they haven't cut her hair yet.
It's blue?
That's
I don't remember that.
Yeah, with a long mane of hair dyed blue. And she's tall and skinny.
All right. That's weird.
So, yeah. Well, they start this. John immediately runs, and he's...
Anime character.
Kinda? But, yeah.
Gotta have the blue hair
Gotta
girl.
have the blue hair girl. Bulma.
Botan.
What's the girl who was Krillin's girlfriend for a little... Well, no, that was in a filler.
Android?
No.
Oh.
There was a filler arc in
I
the
wouldn't know
in the anime where a girl who looks a lot like Bulma, she has the blue hair and everything.
Yeah, that wasn't in the
Her
manga.
name was what was her name? I can't remember. No, we're not talking about that. Okay.
Stay on track.
Yeah, stay on track. John runs. He's the first to hit the bell, so he's like, "Hey, I made it!" And he runs across the finish line. Sam and Kelly are the last, so while John came in first, the team came in last.
So he still don't get to eat.
Yeah. And he gets to watch everyone else eating turkey and gravy and mashed potatoes and then ice cream and brownies. It sounds really good to me. But John don't get any of it, so he is dead tired and really hungry. So the next day they do the same thing, PT and all, and he hadn't eaten anything. So then they get to the classroom where Deja teaches them about wolves and
he steals some crackers.
Steals some more crackers and some milk, but he says it does nothing for his hunger.
Mm-hmm.
Then they do the playground again, but this time they work as a team, and Kelly is apparently Usain Bolt. So they find that the playground is set up differently, and there's a pulley system with a basket so they can lift themselves up to the bell. Yep. And they see it, and Kelly runs up there first, and she holds it for Sam and John. So when they get in, they all pull themselves up. They don't come in first, but they do come in second or third, I believe.
Yeah, they were like middle of
They
the
were
pack.
third, yeah. So each of them got to ring the bell, and they all
it was
get
cool how much faster she was.
Yeah.
Like, she's a lot faster.
Mm-hmm. And that's her thing among the Spartans. She's the fastest every time. And it's kind of scary. Like,
oh, yeah, they talk about when she gets augmented and stuff.
Yeah.
She's like a ghost.
Yeah, no one can touch her if she doesn't want them to.
Yeah.
And Spartans, like the baseline, they already have 300% faster reflexes than normal humans after augmentations. She's faster than that.
She's the Flash.
She could give Goku a run for his money. Just... So, yeah. So they make it, and they're like, alright, we'll be friends. So next, a couple years later, we have a new training exercise where they're dropped off in the wilderness. Each of them have a piece of a map, and one of them is going to get left behind in the wilderness and have to walk back is the exercise. So they meet up.
When they're flying in the Pelican.
Albatross.
What is it?
Yeah, I think it's an albatross because it's big.
John sees a river, and he nods to Sam and Kelly. It's like, make sure that everybody, makes it to the river. Mm-hmm. We'll find the pond at the end of it. Yeah. And so he wants them all to meet up there and put the map together so that they can all exit at the same time, so they don't. The last person doesn't get left behind. Mm-hmm. And he said, even if they still do that, I'm going to be the last person on there. Yeah. So that was cool.
So, yeah, they do that, and they find a green thing marked on the map. They're like, I'm pretty sure that's the extraction point, so we're going to go there. And they do, and there's a drop ship there, but the men guarding it, they aren't in uniform, and they test them out. They send one of their people ahead to like kind of gauge the situation, and Kelly acts like she's it was Fajad or Sam.
The what?
Remember, they come up with a plan where one of them is going to act like he's injured, and Kelly's going to lead them. To him.
I think that was Sam.
So yeah, Sam gets his shins scraped by a combat boot, so he's bleeding. Yeah. And Kelly runs out and is like, "Hey, a friend's back here. Come this way." And they run after her. And when they see Sam on the ground bleeding, the guy says, "I've got your leg right here." And he raises a baton. But the Spartan candidates are all surrounding him. And they throw rocks at him. Good-sized rocks, mind you. And they pretty much beat, either knock unconscious or kill all of these guards and steal their drop ship. And John contacts the AI that's also their teacher, Deja, and has her autopilot them out. So that they fly out, and Mendez has John in his office, and he gets the whole report how they weren't in uniform and they were going to hurt him. And Mendez looks over at Halsey and says, "What are we going to do with this one?" And Halsey's like, "I think it's obvious, Chief. Make him squad leader."
Yep.
So he gets promoted for it. And I think next part is a couple more years later. It's 25-25, and it's augmentation time.
Oh boy.
So all 75 Spartan candidates are sent to the UNSC Office of Naval Intelligence's medical facility in orbit around Reach. And Halsey gets this message from pretty much her teacher, who was he's an admiral, and he's the head of a ship called the Hopeful. It's a hospital ship, and he's really up there in the scientific community. I love how you're doing this, because I did it on the cast, I believe. When you and Tanner were talking.
Keep going.
Yeah. So this message is him coming up with findings about all the augmentation she's using. She's looked and looked to try and make the augmentation safer to use, but he can't find anything else. And it goes into real detail on what these do and what the side effects are. Like there's muscle enhancement injections, carbide ceramic ossification, which makes their bones really dense.
Wolverine.
Yeah. And it may cause irreparable bone pulverization. And they get a thyroid implant, which pretty much eliminates any sex drive they have.
Yes.
And they get their eyes get augmented so they can see in the dark and process information a lot faster.
Meow.
Yeah, they're like cats.
Yep.
And then superconducting fibrification of neural dendrites.
That's just faster reflexes, right?
Yeah, that's their
risk Parkinson's.
Yeah, or Fletcher's syndrome. So yeah. Then Deja is like, "I'm sorry. I would hope that there was some new processes to help lower the risk." But then Halsey's like, "I know we need more time. I shouldn't do this." But then Deja's like, "I need to remind you that if you don't do this, because the brass want results now, they'll find someone who will do it with no care for the children, and they won't be as qualified as you are." And Halsey says, "I hate this. And sometimes, Deja, I hate you too." So then she walks over to John with Mendez, and John's like hooked up to the medical stuff, and they've got him on anesthesia, trying to knock him out. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "I'm trying to fight it. I'm going as long as I can." So then he's like, "I know this is one of your exercises, Mendez, but can you just tell me the twist this one time?" And Mendez says, "The twist is you have to survive 117," and then he goes out. So yeah, after that, we start with a funeral scene aboard the UNSC carrier Atlas. So,
it's a good transition there.
Yeah.
They didn't all make it.
I think 30 of them survived.
Fajad or whatever
he's in a
is.
wheelchair.
Yeah, he's in a wheelchair. One kid went blind or something.
Yeah, and some people were in these buoyancy tanks because their bones got pulverized.
Yeah.
Kind of like remember when we watched The Expanse and that one guy was hung up and gravity was crushing him because his bones were less dense? Mm-hmm. It was like that because he can only exist in a tank of water when he's on Earth. So it's like that, pretty much.
Didn't Fajad or whatever his name is, didn't he
he wrote
some kind of nerve damage too?
Yeah, he was shaking,
spazzing out and stuff.
He was also the one who wrote that slip space paper that Keyes uses.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So they send out the caskets of the ones who died, which is around 30 of them survived the whole thing, and a dozen more were crippled. So they've got a high 20s number of Spartans that are ready for combat. They're still combat effective. So yeah, and think of all the money they spent training all of them, and they lose more than half of them like that. So that's why the Spartan-II program is kind of, they never continued and made another class of it. Mm-hmm. These are it. But they are the best. There's no one better than the Spartan-IIs. They got the best training and everything.
I get that it's costly, but look at the end result.
Yeah.
You know?
They get the same thing, though, with Spartan-IVs there at the end. They're not as good, but they're good enough. So, yeah. And Chief is just, well, he's not a chief yet. John, I keep calling him Chief, but the only chief right now is Mendez.
Yep,
Yeah.
he's the chief.
John, he tries to stop orderlies from taking the injured, like, disabled Spartans away. He's like, where are you taking my men? And Mendez is like, walk with me, Chief. Let them go. They're not yours anymore. They can't fight anymore, but they can still use their minds. They can still serve. And Chief's like, well, that's all any of us ask, Chief. John he says, that's all any of us can ask, Chief. And Mendez, like, Mendez says, good luck. And all. And then we transition to a couple weeks later, and Chief is just wanting to work out.
And he's wanting to get swole.
Yeah, he wants to get swole, and he's noticing that his normal workout routine is just too easy. And they're on a spaceship with artificial
gravity. Which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, this is cool. The spaceship has artificial gravity, and parts of the gym have higher gravity than normal. So he goes to the high G portion and starts. He's like, okay, that feels normal.
It made me think of the workout chamber that Vegeta was in.
Yeah, like in his ship that had the gravity. Goku also trained at higher gravity.
He was in. It was a Capsule Corp.
Yeah, it was the ship.
It was Bulma's.
Yeah,
but I'm saying Vegeta was in that too.
Mm-hmm. He was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar. Not as extreme.
It's extreme. It's not 30 Gs.
It's not 300 Gs. He tried that.
Yeah.
he collapsed. He was like spinning in air, like flying, and Bulma contacts him, and then he's just like, gah! Gets glued to the floor. Okay. So yeah, he does stuff like he takes one of the safety pins off of the weight set and drops it, and he notices how it's falling slowly, and he does math right then because the Spartans were also taught a lot of advanced math and stuff, so they're really smart. So he does this whole math equation in his head, and
a rough estimate.
Yeah, rough estimate of how fast it's falling, because he's like, it's falling normal, but I mean, I see it super slow, so.
Mm-hmm.
He forgets to put it back on, so some ODSTs come in and start working out, and one of the weights like falls off because the safety pin isn't there, and they're like, what are you doing in here? And he's like, my apologies, I forgot to put it back on. And they're like, they try and fight him, and he pushes him off, but then a sergeant walks in, and he's like, if you maggots want to settle things, you need to get in the ring. So they get in a boxing ring, and John...
And he effing kills them all.
He doesn't
kill a boxing ring.
He doesn't kill all of them. I think some of them are only...
One of them lived.
Yeah, one of them lived, but...
My God.
He is very brutal. Like, one of them has one of the bar from the weights, and John grabs his hands that he's holding onto it and twists.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Didn't one of their leg bones pop out?
Yeah.
It's gross.
So the sergeant is just like, oh my God.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
And Chief Mendez comes and is like, they're waiting for you for debriefing, Sergeant. Medics are on their way. You can leave. And he's like, he's one of them, isn't he? And he runs off looking over his shoulder and then runs faster because he's scared.
But hold on. Isn't he like 14 or whatever at
yes,
this point?
He's
like,
14.
Well, hold on. He did look like an 18-year-old.
Yeah,
I guess he didn't know who he was.
They induced puberty earlier in their meals, like with hormonal supplements, so they had the bodies of 18.
That wasn't mentioned at all in this book.
It's what they did, though. That's kind of what's inferred, though, when they say they had the body of 18-year-old athletes from the Olympics.
Olympic athletes, yeah.
So, yeah, and John, he has a very simple mind. He thinks if he sees a person, they're either a target, a comrade, or a superior who will give me orders. And these guys are UNSC soldiers, so they're comrades. And he was given an order by the sergeant to settle it in the ring, but he killed them. So he's like,
did I do the right thing?
Yeah. And
I had a mission. He told me what to do. I followed the chain of command.
Yeah. And John is like, I feel strangely sorry for the men I'd killed. He says, Mendez talks to him about it. And he's like, not every mission has simple objectives or comes to a logical conclusion. Your priorities are to follow the orders in your chain of command, and then to preserve your life and the lives of your team. Is that clear? And John's like, sir, yes, sir. He hit the showers and let the blood rinse off him. He felt strangely sorry for the men he had killed. But he knew his duty. The chief had even been unusually verbose in order to clarify the matter. Follow orders and keep himself and his team safe. That's all he had to focus on. John didn't give the incident in the gym another thought. I like going into the minds of the Spartans, because they are really different than a normal human.
Well, duh.
Yeah.
They didn't have a childhood. Like, they got
Until 6.
abducted at 6 years old.
It's
But,
very interesting.
In his defense, he didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah,
he defended himself.
He didn't know he was that strong. He literally didn't know his own strength.
But, they were coming at him with weapons.
Yeah.
What was he supposed to do?
Exactly.
It was a fair boxing fight at first.
Yeah, but then they brought the bar.
But then he beat them.
Yeah.
And they decided to try to kill him. So, I wouldn't feel bad if I was Chief.
Yeah.
ODST scum.
ODSTs are cool, though.
Not those guys.
Those guys are kind of iffy, but Buck's cool. He's Nathan Fillion. Okay, transition time. So we're back on Reach, and Halsey is at the normal training place. She's waiting for Mendez to show up because she's like, "Where are my Spartans? They're not here." And he's like, "Oh yeah." Well, turns out that the results are better than we anticipated. We can't train them here. We did some hand-to-hand combat drills, and they killed a couple instructors. So
now they're in a bunker underground.
These huge hollowed-out titanium mines that Oni uses for storage. And when they get there, they're doing a training exercise.
When he's talking to her, he's like, "Do you remember those exoskeleton suits people were working on?" She's like, "I'll humor you. Yes, I remember." And he's like, "Well, we've had some people put those on to fight the Spartans, to keep up with them."
Yeah. So when they get to this exercise that's going on, and the lights turn on in this huge cavern, I don't know what I was trying to say, cavern, and there's a bunker in the middle with a good number of instructors. They're all wearing this power armor suits that are huge, hulking.
The Spartan ones.
Yeah. Well, no, Spartan ones didn't use these.
No, I'm saying this is part of that program.
Yeah, it is. Well, actually, no, it isn't, because Halsey started the Milner program. So when she was training the Spartans, she was doing all this with trying to get Milner
That
better.
wasn't the first thing, was those suits?
Mm-mm.
So what are they?
They're just old prototypes, pretty much.
I thought they were part of the program.
I mean, the Milner is a part of the program, but those are just old prototypes that weren't what they wanted. So anyway, these things they let them run at 30 kilometers per hour, and they're strong, and they
freaking fast.
They have a 30 millimeter chain gun on the arm, and they're loaded with stun rounds. But anyway, the Spartans had been dropped in here, and as far as the instructors knew, they didn't have any supplies or weapons or anything. They just said, "Here, take the flag at this bunker," and the lights go out or something. Kelly runs really fast and distracts him, and John and 3 other Spartans rope down from the ceiling. They're wearing these black ninja outfits, and one of them punches one of the instructors and dents his armor.
Yeah, didn't one of them swing down from the ceiling and
then
tie
tied
the
around?
instructor,
Yeah,
and then he
John
goes
did
flying
that.
up?
They used him as a counterweight, like Batman.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. It's like that scene in
Dark Knight.
Batman Begins.
Yeah, Batman Begins.
And the loading dock.
Yes.
And whoa!
It's exactly like that. John dodges the 30 millimeter chain gun that a dude shoots at him because Halsey is worried. She's like, "Even stun rounds can kill at this distance," and John just sidesteps it. He just goes, "Omewa no shinderu." The guard, "Nani?" So yeah, they're really freaking strong. They can punch dents in these armor. They take the flag, and then the lights go out.
I love when they disable the armor, and those guys are just stuck in it. They're like, "Ah!"
The lights go out, and Halsey's like, "Tell me you recorded that." He's like, "Yeah, of course." "Oh, darn it, they got to the cameras again." Every time we put them somewhere, they disable the recording equipment. And we know for a fact that when we put them here, they didn't have rope or those black suits they're wearing, so we have no idea where they got them.
They took a sewing class.
Yeah. So basically, the Spartan-IIs are way better than anyone ever expected. The results are amazing, and Brass wants to test them out in a real mission. So, because there's rumors...
Keep in mind, they're like 14 at this point.
Mendez says that they're ready for it, but I mean, this is far ahead of your schedule. What happened? I've heard rumors that there was some heavy action in your Harvest colony, and Halsey says, your rumors are out of date, Chief. There's no more fighting at Harvest. There is no more Harvest. So at this point, the Covenant has showed up, but most of humanity doesn't know it, least of all the Spartans. So they're put on the UNSC destroyer Pioneer, and they head to the Eridanus system, which is where Eridanus II, John's homeworld, is. Mm-hmm. So they are tasked with infiltrating an asteroid base that the insurrectionists have built. It's like a holdover from an open rebellion they had in the system years ago. Mm-hmm. And they're to take the leader of the resistance, who was a former Marine colonel named Robert Watts. That's their objective, get Watts. And so this is pretty much the entire reason the Spartan-II program happened. The humanity was en route for a huge civil war to encompass their space, and the UNSC didn't want that to happen. So an elite force like the Spartans was a very tempting offer to do, and they did it. Mm-hmm. This is why they were created. They weren't created to fight the Covenant. They were created to squash human rebellion. So this whole thing is pretty much them tying up loose ends as the Covenant comes in. They're like, we have to handle the rebellion now, and then we'll send them to the Covenant. Mm-hmm. And this is a really cool mission. Like, I like this part of the book. They get on a freighter at Eridanus, and they hide in the water tank of it, because the freighter has enough supplies to supply a small city. And they're not supposed to be going to any small cities, so they're like, yeah, they're going to the base. And they identify the officer. He's like some type of rebel officer they thought got killed. But anyway, they're in the water tank of it, and Kelly is looking at the ship's manifest, and she sees all these items. She goes, here, John, look at this. Check it out. The chief smokes them. And he sees Sweet William cigars. And next to that is some New York chilled steaks.
That's the same thing that Mendez smokes.
Johnson smokes, yeah. Johnson smokes them too. Like, a lot of UNSC NCOs and officers use the Sweet William brand. Like, that's just a war thing they do. But yeah, so there's steaks, chocolates, champagne. All these are luxury items. They're probably not going for sale. These are probably going to Watts or his officers. So they tag them, and they get onto the base, this huge asteroid base that's hollowed out. It's got a city inside. Closest thing, if you guys have ever watched the Expanse series, is very similar to this. You remember that? It's like the asteroid. You weren't really paying attention. It was also very hard to hear because you kept turning the volume really down.
Well, you wanted to watch it, and it was like 11:30 or something. Everybody was asleep.
True. But yeah. They're wearing coveralls, so no one really knows that they're Spartans. They're blending in pretty well, even though they're pretty big people for 14-year-olds. And they sneak aboard, they track the luxury items to where Watts is, and they get into a shootout with Watts' people. They find him, and he's like, do you know who I am? You're all dead. My men are coming. And John gets shot, drawing his fire, and they end up taking him down and knocking him out. And they put him in the cargo crate that had all his luxury items because it's vacuum sealed. Mm-hmm. So, because he's not wearing any vacuum armor, and they don't want him to die of asphyxiation. So
that's a big word.
Yeah, it is a big word.
They have their, like, Spartan suits in this, but they're not.
They're not Spartan suits.
They're not near.
They're just normal UNSC hard suits, pretty much.
Okay, fine. Jeez,
it's okay.
But didn't they get like a prototype of Mjolnir that looked like it, but it wasn't as good?
That's the Mark IV.
Okay,
and that's later on. Like, these are just like what normal UNSC Special Forces wear. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
He got shot.
Yeah, John
And then
gets
they,
shot.
Like, squirted him with that
Biofoam.
foam. Yeah,
Halo ODST had that.
of course it did.
It did. I know all the references.
Take it away, Wyatt.
Yeah. So yeah, they have a panic button which marks the location of the base for later assaults. John does that. They go back to the hangars, and Sam has these 2 big duffel bags filled with explosives, and he's like,
C-12.
Yeah, C-12 foam explosives. And he's like, don't worry, guys, I got the door. And he throws them at the big blast door of the hangar, blows a huge hole in it. This causes rapid decompression. A whole bunch of civilians die because they're sucked out into the void of space. They get into a Pelican. They fly off. Mission accomplished. They got Watts. They stole him right under the insurrection's nose. And it was just very, very, very
cool.
Very cool. So yeah, and for a couple weeks, this is what they do. They go on all these missions, and John rotates every Spartan, making sure each one goes on one mission each. And after that, they go back to Reach, where they get briefed on the whole Covenant situation. And they're told that they're going to... They're told pretty much everything they know about the Covenant harvest and how Admiral Cole is readying a fleet to go to harvest and take it back. And they're going to the system Chi-Kedai, I believe is how it's pronounced, 4. And that's where they're going to get their Milner armor, the Mark IV suits, which is the original Spartan armor that they wore throughout the majority of their service, actually. And it has a little bit of a space battle on a frigate, the Commonwealth. And it shows how good the Covenant spaceships are, because that thing takes 2 600-ton Mac rounds fired at a fraction of the speed of light. And it has these pulse lasers which eliminate their comms arrays and everything, like in the opening seconds of the battle. And they can maneuver through slip space very accurately, so they'll be millions of kilometers, and then they'll jump in slip space and be right on top of you pretty much. And they have shields, the UNSC doesn't. They're just a very hard enemy to fight. You wanna...
No, keep going.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I've been talking a while. Okay.
Well, I'm trying to add stuff in, but you keep cutting me off.
Now you know how it's like to be me when you guys are talking about something else. Ooh. Yeah. How's it feel, Riley? How's it feel?
When are me and Tanner talking about something that you don't know about on this channel?
I mean, there's some stuff you guys talk about, like more comic stuff that I don't know about. And I mean, it's more like... I mean, yeah. I'll stand by that statement, yeah. Yeah, but feel free to talk. I don't want to be over you. You're doing this together. You read the same book.
Okay. I did, but I'm not as familiar with this particular part of the book.
Okay. So, they do that. They go to the surface. They get their armor. It's really freaking cool. They do an obstacle course, and they're dodging bullets and stuff.
You talking about when they get, like, the real thing?
Yeah, this is when they first get the Milner Mark IV.
Yeah, that part was cool.
So, yeah.
They all have to, like,
get
test
fitted
drive
for
it for a bit to, like, to get used to it. Because the way they describe it, that they're using it, it's like the armor is taking them for a ride. And if they weren't as strong as they were, it would crush them.
Yeah, they show this video of a regular Marine trying the armor, and they're like, all right, lift your right arm. And he does it, but it's so fast that it crushes his arm.
It decimates his entire arm.
And his pain-induced spasms are feeding into the system of the suit, and it's just making him move even more.
Yeah, and he dies.
Yeah.
See, I never knew that. I thought it was just a suit, like, with shields and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that you had to be really freaking strong to even wear the suit.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty cool. But, like, they're talking about it, and I feel like it would be really hard to get... Like, if you took a break from wearing it for a while, it would kind of throw you off, you know?
A little bit, yeah.
Because, like, you're way faster, and when you're moving in the suit, you just have to think about moving. It's, like, less effort than actually moving your body. Like, it does it for you. It's like your body's going on autopilot almost. So, like, that It's a really badass suit.
A cool thing about this is later on in another book, John asks Linda if she's all right. Like, she just gets out of surgery and if she's ready for a mission, and she shrugs. That's very hard to do in Milner armor because of all the nerves required to do that. So he's like, okay, say no more. Oh, yeah, another cool part about the space battle that happens is they throw missiles, Mac rounds. It doesn't do anything. So the captain decides to, you know what, I'm just going to nuke them. But he can't get out of range. The nuke will get them too. So Halsey says, well, the Covenant usually engage whatever we throw at them. So the longsword interceptors, and he goes, damn it. All right, get your fighters into the black, boys. And sends out his fighter pilots to engage the enemy ship. He doesn't tell them what happens, but he shoots a nuclear missile at him. And the Covenant are engaging the fighters, and they're not pursuing. So he gets the ship out of range. The nuke goes off, and the EMP washes over, and everything kind of shuts down. The lights do. And no one can see but John on the bridge. And he sees the captain sitting there saluting the men he just sent to their deaths. So he could get the hit. But the worst part is, the nuke didn't even kill the ship. Like, it's still out there. So he's like...
That was very ominous.
It was, yeah. The Covenant are not...
It's still out there.
Yeah. Covenant ain't screwing around. So after they get fitted with...
Did you read this for this episode?
No.
All right. There you have it. He's that knowledgeable.
On this subject? Yes.
What about the other books? How many times have you read those?
I mean, I've read The Flood 3 times. I've read
First... You'll probably have to read that again.
Yeah, I'll read it again. I've read First Strike 5-6 times. I've read Ghost of Onyx 5 times. And the other ones I've read 1 or 2. This is the main Eric Nylund trilogy I really love. That's the ones I've read the most. So yeah, they get their armor and they go up in a Pelican and they need to destroy the Covenant ship. So weapons aren't working, so Chief is like, you know what, we're going to board them. Get the missiles out of this Pelican. So someone goes EVA and goes onto the wing and starts grabbing the missiles mounted. And they have thruster packs too. And they use the missiles to get over to the Covenant ship. And they have to get there past the shields too. They wait for this weapon to fire because they notice that the shields drop so the gun can fire. Mm-hmm. So when that happens, only 3 of them get aboard. And that's Kelly, John, and Sam are able to get aboard. And they meet the alien for the first time, and it's a jackal, which is a very avian, bird-like creature that... It's not tall and imposing. It's not bigger than a human. It's not as strong as a human. They're fast and very agile, and they have really good eyesight. The Covenant uses them as snipers, and they also have these shield gauntlets that they wear that lets them form shield walls and stuff.
I'm going to show them a picture.
Oh, you can draw a jackal?
No. I'm gonna put a picture of a jackal.
Oh, it's a very good thing to do.
Yeah.
So yeah. I say that a lot in this. So yeah.
And they, like, in the book, they make the Covenant out to be, like, really freaking strong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it takes a Spartan to kill any of them. Mm-hmm. They even amp up the grunts in this book. I was playing Halo 5 last night, and I'm just like, pop, pop, pop. Like, yeah, that's not how the book is at all.
Yeah. Well, in the games, the grunts are numerous, but here they literally fight thousands of them at a time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But they make them out to be, like, really strong, though.
They are pretty strong.
Grunts
against Marines. Like,
okay.
Remember at Sigma Octanus how there were literally thousands and thousands of grunt tracks? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, thousands of anything can be strong.
But, like,
do you think you could survive against 1,000 kindergartners?
Well,
with a 5th grader coming every 5th round.
No holds barred.
The boss.
But, like, I'm just thinking about the game where you're like, you turn on Grunt Birthday Party, when you pop them in the head, yay!
Confetti! I get what you're saying.
And also, they don't speak English in this book, but in the games, they're all making jokes, and like, it's the demon! When they see you, it's just funny.
Yeah, the
Like, I played last night, and I was getting a bunch of headshots, and then the next room I go in, a grunt says, "They're shooting them in the head? I keep my brains in there." What?
Yeah, it's probably better when the translation software wasn't so good. Because, like, in the prologue, they describe the grunt language.
Is that why? Because they just sound like
Yeah.
like barking dogs in the book.
Which is pretty menacing. And they run
Right?
like dogs on all fours.
Right?
Yeah.
Then you play the game.
Ah! Suicide!
Save yourselves!
That's the great joke, right? Great
Thank
joke.
you.
So yeah, the jackal that they face, they kill it, but it gets one shot off, and the plasma bolt hits Sam and goes through his suit. It doesn't kill him, but I mean,
Hole in the suit.
hole in the suit, so he's not getting out of there. They find a reactor and they rig it to blow, and Sam's like, "Excuse me, I think you need to bless me for that."
I'm kidding.
Okay.
He takes one for the team,
Yeah.
and he stays behind and blows the thing up. Poor Sam.
Rip Sam. When he was reading, he sent Sam with the crying emoji when it happened.
I did.
I was like, R.I.P. Spartan 34.
Sam.
He was a true hero of humanity.
It's not the only one.
Yeah. So this is the first comrade John loses. And it's the first engagement he's ever in against the Covenant.
Mm-hmm.
But they won't lose really anyone until later. Because, I mean, Spartans are strong.
Mm-hmm.
They're really good. That finishes off this section. They blew up that ship, and now they're in the war. They have Milner. They're getting deployed. Like, it's probably one of the biggest wars in science fiction because it's fought across 800 worlds, and there's thousands of ships, millions of troops.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty big.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they're in the thick of it,
Yep.
each part. Yeah, very much.
Mm-hmm.
Section 3!
Mm-hmm.
Sigma Octanus. It opens up with just random dude, Ensign level. Sitting
that guy. Apparently he's like a really good soldier, but like he kind of slacks off and doesn't do his best.
So he
got demoted a bunch of times. He used to be a what?
Well, he used to be like a full lieutenant, and now he's an ensign, so he got busted down twice. And he gets deployed on a scanning outpost that's pretty out of the way. It's a backwater. No one ever goes there, but it's safe. Look, he doesn't have to fight anyone, so he's like, it's all right. I'm fine with this. But then he gets a flash because this whole thing, they send probes into the slip space, which is the dimension they use for FTL travel. So yeah, and they're able to send out pings and get returns of objects that are in the slipstream.
Well, guess what he saw? A Covenant ship.
Well, he thinks it is. He sees a very large mass.
It is.
It's a lot of physics.
He's scared. He's crapping his pants.
No, he has a pretty good reason to not think it's one because it doesn't match any of the. It's a huge mass, and comets and other asteroids sometimes get into slip space.
But then Keyes sees it.
But Keyes had just read this report on how multiple objects can show up as one mass in slip space. It's like a physics that pretty much just happened.
And then he sends that to the whatever vice admiral, rear admiral.
He sends it to Admiral Hieronymus Michael Stanforth.
And he's like, yeah, this is probably a bunch of Covenant ships. And he's like, yeah, you're probably right. We should send some people out there. And then they do. They send some people out there.
But they're too far away to help him. The nearest allies
for like a half hour, I guess.
No, the nearest hours are... The nearest allies are a pair of frigates that are an hour away. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to be much help anyway. Keyes is a commander now. And he is the commanding officer.
Keyes.
Yeah, Commander Keyes.
He always has these catchy names.
He does, doesn't he? He's the commanding officer of the UNSC Iroquois.
A very crappy ship.
It's not crappy.
It's pretty crappy. It doesn't even have an AI.
That doesn't mean it's crappy.
It's pretty crappy. Like it says in the book, there's like not the ideal ship.
He says not the ideal ship, but he still says that he couldn't ask for a finer vessel. Because, I mean, this is a destroyer, It's the same length as a frigate, but it has almost double the mass because, unlike a frigate, which has 60 centimeters of armor, the destroyer has 2 meters. It also has 2 MAC cannons, 26 oversized archer pods, and 3 nuclear missiles. It's very heavily armed and armored. It's basically just meant to fight other ships. Like, it's not meant to send Marines anywhere or anything. It's just to fight in space, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Covenant show up in the system. He's called for help, and his bridge crew, he's not very impressed with all but one of them. Lieutenant Dominique is cool. He's like, yeah, you're a good soldier. I like you. The others, Lieutenant Hall is too eager to please and she's very ambitious and doesn't mind showing it.
What's the navigation guy's name?
Lieutenant Jaggers.
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah. Keys is pretty sure he caught him with liquor on his breath once. Had him tested, nothing came up. But Keys just does not like the guy. He
doesn't like him because he's insubordinate.
Yeah, he is. Lieutenant Hikawa is the weapons officer, and she's just sluggish because she's been in a couple battles and is just battle fatigued. Because they keep losing, morale is super low.
Yeah, I was going to say, keep in mind that like they've been losing a lot lately.
And Cole is dead by this point, so they've lost their main hero who could consistently give... Yeah, he's dead. He's... the guy who could... the guy who consistently give them victories is not around anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So the Covenant show up, and Jaggers is like, are we going to run? And Keys is like, hell no, we ain't going to run. We got 3 million souls on that planet. You just want to let them die? I ain't doing that.
Okay, you right.
We're going to do our duty.
Okay, you right.
Plot a collision course for that destroyer.
So we're going to ram it head on.
Yeah, the whole time he's doing this battle, his bridge officers are like, what the heck are you doing? He fires a nuke in seemingly the opposite direction.
Turn us around. Now turn us back around.
Yeah. And then he's like, course correction. And Jaggers is like, sir, that's a collision course with the enemy destroyer. He's like, I know. In fact, I'm planning on doing just that. And he's thinking about the battle. He's like, okay, they outnumber me. Their weapons are better. They're faster than me. Wait a minute. They're weapons. I do have another option.
He's basically trying every risky maneuver that you wouldn't want to do.
Yeah. The Covenant, their main weapon is called plasma torpedoes, and they can control it wherever it goes. So if it misses, they can arc around and still trail, overcome their target's velocity.
The big green things.
Mm-hmm.
For the people who love the games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, plasma is blue, too. The plasma rifle.
But these are green.
Yeah. I love his writing here when he says blue or green motes of light collect along the hull of the Covenant ships before turning.
Did you just quote that from memory?
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
I love this book, man.
Wow, dude.
But yeah.
Have that tattooed on your arm?
Green motes of light.
I swear you're gonna get like the Spartan thing with the lightning. Or
dude,
whatever.
I would. I so would. No, I'd get the Hell Jumper.
I know you would.
With the ODST pod and the skull. Yep.
Please don't. Oh my gosh.
Fake military units.
Then you could go up to people in the bar and be like, "Yeah, man,
I was a Hell Jumper.
I was with the
105th MC
yeah, whatever that
Marine
is.
Combat Unit."
They'd be like, "No shit, for real."
Stolen valor.
It's not real valor.
It's not real valor.
It can't be stolen.
It can't be stolen. I would end up on the news if I did that.
Yeah, you would. Stolen valor. YouTube sensation.
Yep. Gosh, that's funny. Okay, so the Covenant fire those plasma torpedoes at him, and he uses these emergency thrusters, which are these chemical tanks on the side of his ship that when the chemicals mix, they explode and literally blast the ship onto a new course. So right before the torpedoes hit, he uses one of those and dodges them, so now they're trailing him. So he is still planning to collide with the destroyer. And at the last moment, he does another emergency thruster and only scrapes it, which weakens the destroyer's shields. Then the torpedoes didn't change their course fast enough, so they slam into the destroyer. The first one knocks out its shields, the second guts it, and then he just fires all of his aft missile pods and blows it sky high pretty much. It's gone. Like, he destroys this destroyer very amazingly super badass. Like, Commander Keyes is a tactical genius, pretty much. Even though he says that if anyone had proposed this plan in my tactical class, I would have gave him a C because it's very risky. But he was like, what else was I gonna do?
True.
So yeah, he gives into orbit. He comes back around. Remember the nuke he had fired in seemingly the opposite direction? Here's some physics for you. It wasn't
it caught the orbit, right?
No, I see when I first read the book, I thought it orbited the planet.
Did it not?
No, it didn't. See, what happened was its thrust wasn't enough to overcome the inertia it had when the ship was still moving towards the destroyer. So its thrust died out, but it still kept moving in that direction. It basically floated unnoticed all the way over there.
Oh,
yeah.
I see. Okay.
So after he orbits, he's like, the nuke is still out there, and he's still facing 2 Covenant frigates. He detonates the nuke.
Am I thinking of something else where he swings around a planet and gets them from behind? Was that something else?
Yeah, it was. That was Cole split his fleet, remember? And then they
I thought that happened in this book too.
No, it doesn't. I don't think so. Wait, that may have happened later on when he has the pillar bottom.
Yeah. When he
in the asteroid belt,
he takes a loop around and he's behind him.
I think that's
maybe that was Cole. I don't know.
I think it might be Cole. We'll. I'm pretty sure it is. I don't think that happens. I mean, he does some other engagements with the pillar bottom. He may arc around an asteroid, like when that flagship shows up right behind him.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see when we get there. So yeah, the nuke goes off and it doesn't kill their ships, but it takes down their shields, and he ends them with a Mac round each, destroying them. But that's not all the Covenant ships. There was a carrier with them that was even larger, even more heavily armed, but it pretty much ignored him the entire time. It went to the planet and dropped out an entire invading army, and another small ship that was docked with it, a troop transport, went down to the surface to invade. But he expected it to, because his destroyer was pretty much dead in the water. He'd overloaded the reactor, he'd expended most of his ammunition, and he rammed into another ship, so he's very heavily damaged. And he's like, alright, we did our best. Maybe we bought enough time. But then the carrier just yeets out of there and leaves. And this is significant because the Covenant only ever fight to the last man or kill everything. They never run away, so this is the first time that happens.
They must have a plan.
Yeah, this whole thing is not a normal engagement by any strength of the word. Normal.
Mm-hmm.
So, Keyes is a badass. That's all you need to know from this section. Then it transitions to the ground game on Sigma Octanus 4, which is the planet they were orbiting. And we join a Marines, Corporal Harland. And,
oh boy.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool part. You want to go over this part so they're not just listening to me the whole time?
I think the people like listening to you.
They do?
Yeah. You don't talk a lot in the other episodes.
I don't. These are my episodes.
You're show. Right. This is your part of the channel.
All right. You just jump in whenever. Okay.
I will do so.
Yeah. So Harland is a corporal in the Marines, and they're in a warthog, and they're getting chased by, there's Covenant around in the jungle, there's a Banshee on their tail, and he pretty much recollects what happens. They left their fire base.
This part kind of made me think of Forward Unto Dawn.
Yeah,
remember that
I remember that movie. It was cool.
Just Marines getting blown up by Covenant.
So he goes over what happens before. They left their base to go survey on a patrol this area, because there were these ruins there that no one really knew what they were. No one had ever really investigated them. I'm pretty sure they were Forerunner ruins, and that's one of the reasons the Covenant were on this world, because his platoon leader, they get out of their vehicles and go to this place, and the platoon leader sends their squad away for a bit to like recon. They hear an explosion, they run back, and the rest of the platoon is gone. It's all pretty much glassed from a big plasma explosion. They see something and they run. They're chased by grunts, and like you said, the grunts are very dangerous and threatening in this game. They're using needlers, and the needles are blowing up and sending fragments. It's like you don't see this in the game, but the needlers in the books are pretty much frag launchers. Like every needle is like a frag grenade, because if they don't hit you, they still explode and send micro filaments of crystal everywhere.
Well, in the games they do blow up.
Yeah, but only it doesn't really affect anything though.
But like in the book, they splinter. It's like it's like hitting a piece of wood, an old piece of wood, with a grenade or something. It splinters everywhere.
So yeah, there's 4 of them. 4 Marines that are left, and they're in a Warthog. Harland is on the gun. They have a guy who's pretty much frozen in the passenger seat, and he's also the guy with their rocket launcher. And they're getting chased by a Banshee. They have the guy driving, and there's a wounded guy laying in the bed, like almost he's bleeding out pretty much. So they're bouncing around a riverbed. The dude on the gun can't hit the Banshee to save his life because they're bouncing around too much. The plasma that the Banshee is shooting at him with is hitting the water, and that's the only reason their tires aren't just flashed off, because the water is protecting them. So he's yelling at the dude who's frozen to shoot him with the rocket launcher, or they're gonna die. And a rocket streaks out, hits the Banshee. I think there were 2 Banshees too, because another one fires off.
There might have been, yeah.
Yeah, it was the wounded guy. He'd gotten up, grabbed the launcher, and shot the Banshee with like one arm, because the other was holding in his guts.
Yep.
And then he like, I got him, sir. I want to say Harland lit him a cigarette too, but I don't think that happened.
Oh yeah, didn't he have like these special cigarettes that you just go? Boop?
Yeah, you just tap them on the end and they
light.
ignite. Because future.
Yeah.
This isn't the 2500s.
We can't have lighters in here. We have to have self-lighting cigarettes.
That happens, but Keys has an old-fashioned pipe that he actually lights and smokes, because, I mean, he's old-fashioned like that.
And he's always fidgeting with it.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, at the beginning, when he's just a lieutenant, you're not supposed to light a combustible on a UNSC bridge, so he just chews on the end of the pipe. But he doesn't do it around Halsey, because he's like, she'll think it's silly. She won't like me. She likes you just enough to have a kid with you, Keys.
I won't get put.
Pretty much. So, yeah. They make it back to their own base that they left this morning, and it is being raided. Like, everyone's dead. It was built on a hill. The hill is now gone. And there's hunters who are these big hulking things made of worms. They're huge aliens, and they have a plasma cannon on one arm, a shield on the other. The best thing to fight them with is a tank or a Spartan, pretty much. And he's looking through binoculars and seeing one of these things stalk and like destroy a whole bunch of Marines that are still
There were hunters in this one?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, remember when the Spartans come into this? They're in the museum and they meet a hunter.
I remember them seeing them in the museum.
But yeah, they see him when he's looking through binoculars at their base. Like, you know how he describes how it was fortified and there was razor wire, machine gun nest and all? Mm-hmm. Then he's like, oh, that's gone. The hill is gone. And he sees some kind of hulking figure, and it like fires a green blast and like vaporizes a couple of survivors. And he's like, yeah, they're all dead. We need to go back to HQ.
Yep.
And they do.
And HQ's not much better.
Yeah, they get there and they're like, in the mud were thousands and thousands of grunt tracks. So, but here's the thing: the UNSC won this battle for the HQ. They lost the armory, they lost the hospital, they lost the headquarters building, they lost the barracks.
It's a lot of losses.
They lose everything but the checkpoint bunker at the front of the base on the main road. And 14 Marines is all that survives.
And the freaking armory was on fire, and they were going in there trying to save some stuff.
Yeah, they were trying to get as much supplies as they could in fire suits.
Yep.
And they radio fleet for reinforcements, and they're like, don't worry, we're sending you some guys. Just hold on, we're getting some engagements up here. Like, the fleet is engaged, so they can't really do much. They hear the roar of engines, and they see one Pelican show up, which is the smallest dropship the UNSC has, and it's just one. It can carry 12 people, and, well, that's what it says on the wiki. I think there were more Spartans in it, though. They take a little bit of liberty with what can carry what in the books. Anyway, so this Pelican shows up, and one of the Marines is like, that's not backup. That's a burial detail.
Mm-hmm.
But it ain't just Marines. Hell, it ain't even ODSTs. It's 3 teams of Spartan-IIs. Pretty much, most of them, pretty much.
Yeah.
The UNSC is throwing a lot at this battle.
The 12 best.
Yeah. They want to win. So, yeah, they show up. And,
we get to see blue team.
Yep.
Yay.
His armor is devoid of insignia, but Harland could see the insignia of a Master Chief Petty Officer in his helmet's HUD. Master Chief, sir. Harland snapped to attention and saluted. Corporal, it said. At ease. Get your men together and we'll get to work. Sir? Harland asked. I've got a lot of wounded here. What work will we be doing, sir? The Master Chief's helmet cocked quizzically to one side. We've come to take Sigma Octanus 4 back from the Covenant, Corporal, he said calmly. To do that, we're going to kill every last one of them. Very matter-of-factly, like, yeah, we're here, we're going to kill him, and that's all there is to it.
He's had quite a few missions under his belt.
I mean, this is 2552. He started in 2525, so he's probably went on hundreds of missions, to be honest. So, yeah, they form up with teams. He tells the Marines to pretty much just hold on. We're going to go do our mission, and we'll get back and dust off with you guys, so don't worry. Blue team goes one way. One of the other teams goes by the coast, and the other team goes another way to the city of Côte d'Azur, which is pretty much the capital city of the planet. It's huge. The Covenant are occupying it. They're to search for any civilians.
Didn't like one team take the river, one team took
that's it.
The forest up on the hill, and the other team went straight into the city?
Yeah, one team took the coast, not the river, I believe.
Coast.
Yeah. And blue team, Master Chief's team, which is...
was it green team that took the hill?
I think green team took
Linda
the hill.
was...
Yeah, Linda was leader of green
Linda
team.
was the head
and
of
she's
it.
the scout. She's the sniper, the best sniper they have.
There was a mission with Linda before, right?
Yeah, she was on the team to the asteroid base.
Yeah, she was. That's right. That was Linda, Kelly, and Sam?
And Fred. Fred was there too.
And Fred too. Yeah, there was 5 of them. That's right.
So yeah, blue team in this is John as blue lead, Kelly's blue 2, James is blue 3 is Fred, and James is blue 4. So that's the Spartans that are on blue team for this op.
Yep.
They sneak by, they meet just 10 grunts that are moving through the jungle, and they pretty much just execute all of them only because they were heading for the Marines. And John's like, I'm going to do them a favor. And they pretty much ambush and kill them with minimal effort. But yeah, and John, he comments on how the officers who led the Marines initially were fools because they relied on satellite imagery, but it's a jungle. So thermal, motion sensors, none of that really works because everything moves in the jungle.
Yeah.
And the heat is ever present.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much they didn't set any patrols and didn't see the Covenant coming. So they really couldn't fight all that well. But that's okay because John's here. It don't matter. Spartans can do it. So they get to the city. They infiltrate through the sewers. And they attach these devices to the hard lines in the sewer. And that gives them their own private comm network, which is really cool. And they scout around. Blue team goes to a museum. And outside of it, they're like... Chief has a fiber optic probe, which is really cool. A thing the Spartans and Special Forces nowadays use. It attaches to his helmet, and he can like poke a camera that's very small around anywhere to look for places. And he sees a new species, the Engineer.
Yeah.
It's like a squid-like creature that has these gas bags on its body, and it floats. And it uses its tentacles to take apart machines, and they're...
It looks like this.
Yeah, there's a picture. Thanks, Riley, with your magical editing skills. Anyway, it can take apart anything and understand it. This is basically... They're the reason why the Covenant are so technologically advanced. If they didn't have engineers, they wouldn't be good.
Did you tell them about it taking apart the car?
Yeah, they take apart a car, engine, and an electric car.
In seconds.
Yeah.
Took the whole thing apart and then put it all back.
John records it for a bit, and then he's like, all right, let's keep moving. Because, I mean...
All right, let's keep moving,
Let's keep moving, homie. We got some aliens to kill. The most heaviest defended location in the city is the museum, like a natural history museum.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, why? So
They've
of course,
never cared about human history before, so why do they care now?
yeah, that's exactly what he says. You quoted the book.
Hey,
Hey,
look at that.
Yay! So they infiltrate, and they
Turns out they were getting the big rock.
yeah, the rock had alien language on it, and they were beaming it up to the fleet in orbit because a Covenant stealth ship had moved in while another Covenant fleet was distracting the UNSC ships, and Keyes runs it over. We'll get to that. So they're beaming that up, and John, Chief, and Blue Team, they find
come across 2 hunters.
yeah, they know something's up because they find a jackal, and the jackal has a big boot.
flat.
It's got a big boot print in it. It simply got into the hunter's way, and the hunter just stepped on it. So they're like, something ain't quite right.
Mm-hmm.
They do fight some jackals, and they steal their shield gauntlets. But yeah, they find 2 hunters, and they fight them.
In the games, do the hunters ever talk?
They make those roaring sounds.
They don't talk.
Those spines on their back, those they allow them to talk telepathically with the other colony that they're paired with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's what they.
Well,
do.
like in the book, like they were the ones sending the rock, so
Mhm.
like I've never seen them as like intelligent, you know.
Yeah, I find it really weird that the elites never show up at all.
Right?
That's one thing I find strange because the elites, their whole culture is war, and they're always in the thick of it.
Yeah.
So I find it weird that they're not here. But then I think about, remember how the Prophet of Truth was doing stuff like with the brutes behind the elites' back and trying to get them elevated? Maybe this fleet was sent by him, and he just didn't send any of the elites or brutes who could question anything. Just the mindless drones, like hunters and grunts and jackals, pretty much do whatever they tell you tell them to.
Yeah.
So that's my theory for this. So they fight the hunters. James loses an arm because like he braces with a jackal shield and takes a fuel rod right to the face, pretty much. And you think he's dead, but you switch to shredder rounds and start shooting the floor because it's made of wood.
Yeah, they knocked the floor out from under.
And then James just comes and shoulder checks a hunter without an arm and knocks it into the hole. What? Yeah. Spartans make excellent football players.
they were all pushing the rock.
No, they were pushing the hunter, weren't they?
No, the hunters fell instantly when they shot the floor, and then there was that giant monolith.
Okay,
there,
yeah, you're right.
And they're all trying to push it, and then James comes in and goes, knocks it into the hole.
You're right.
So basically,
He monkey. That's brutes. And that's specious.
yeah. Excuse me.
Excuse me, I'm being speciest.
To a fake species.
Dirty brutes. So yeah, they find the rock that they're beaming up, and they capture it intact. And now we're going to transition back to orbit, and this is a very cool tactic that the Admiral despises. They have this huge mobile shipyard called the Cradle. It's multiple kilometers wide and long. It's basically huge. Okay, gotcha. It's huge, okay? And it maneuvers itself between the UNSC fleet and the Covenant fleet. It can cover the entire UNSC fleet. So when the Covenant fire, it faces towards them and takes all of their opening rounds, while the UNSC rounds are free to go in and hit. So basically, it's like Redcoats and Minutemen at the Battle of Concord and Lexington. That's how they describe it. Just firing volleys at each other. Yeah. So that happens, and they are able to weather a couple volleys before the Cradle is just slag. And Keyes is like, are there any lifeboats coming from it? And they're like, no lifeboats have left the Cradle. So they just gave their lives for this battle. And they've damaged a whole bunch of Covenant ships, destroyed many more, and the Admirals like fix bayonets and move in, break formation, and kill them all. So it's just a huge fustercluck of ships everywhere. Like a frigate rams into a Covenant ship, and their superstructure gets locked, and both of them detonate in a nuclear firestorm because their reactors go. Like, it's crazy. And Keyes is like, I would love to get in on this, but my ship is still kind of banged up, so let's get prepared to pick up lifeboats. But then he notices a Covenant stealth ship, and that's what is intercepting the signal of the rock that they're beaming up. So he's like, arm the arthropods and take it out. They fire the missiles at it, but they use ECM, electronic countermeasures, to jam the missile targeting system, so the missiles are a dud. And he's like, okay, let's see him jam this. He's gotten Lieutenant Yeager's transfer. It's Ensign Lovell is here now. He's the navigator. He's like, run them over, Ensign Lovell. And he does. He rams it. It breaks up in orbit, and it dead. So yeah, the UNSC win, but they lose a lot of ships still. But it is a victory.
I remember the Admiral guy coming in like, this has to be a victory, you know.
Oh yeah, before this too, there was another chapter where the Admiral shows up on the Iroquois to personally thank Keyes for how badass he was. Yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, before I forget, here's your promotion to captain.
Yeah.
The paperwork will catch up soon enough. Like he drinks some of Keyes' scotch. He's like, very nice. And then he's like, all right, I gotta go rally the fleet. Oh yeah, here you go. Good job, Mr. Keyes.
Oh, here's your captain rank, by the way.
Yeah. Enjoy the pay increase. Yeah, good job, Captain Keyes.
Pay increase.
Well, yeah, he's going from 05 to 06. Yeah, but pay grade.
What are you buying at this point in your life?
I know, he's kind of up there in years.
I have a hobby.
I think it's cool how every time there's a UNSC officer in one of the books, they're all huge physics nerds. Like, in his office,
well, they have to be.
Yeah, he has this huge physics manuscript on the wall framed. Like, I just love that. That's really cool to me. So yeah, they won the battle. They lose a lot. Keyes is now a captain, and now it's time. And the Spartans nuke the city of Côte d'Azur after they leave, because there was still a whole bunch of Covenant there.
Well, that was the mission.
Yeah, they just wiped them out, and that is going to ruffle some feathers here soon. So we transition to a debriefing on Reach. Oh, before that, however, the Iroquois is still looking for any lifeboats that the UNSC ships sent out. And while they're doing that, a probe from the Covenant fleet attaches it to the hull. And it basically will tell them everywhere the Iroquois has ever been. And Riley sent me, he was like, oh no, with a screenshot of this. I was like, yes, shit does indeed happen.
Yep. It's crazy though, because like they build it up like, oh yeah, we're sending Spartans out. They're gonna, commandeer a Covenant ship. They're gonna fly right to the heart of it. Kidnap the main guy,
and then force a ceasefire.
And then before you know it, that happens, and they're just like trying to survive and save Reach. So that doesn't happen.
I've always wondered what would it be like if Operation Red Flag did go down.
Yeah.
That would be cool. That's a cool headcanon.
Well, then the war would have been over. There'd be no games.
They probably would have never found Halo either. They might have.
Well, I don't know. Maybe.
Because what if that accelerated the whole Great Schism Civil War thing? If they did do that, because the Prophet's like, look, the elites can't even handle the humans. The brutes are the way to go, and that starts Civil War, and then things happen. I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know. What do I know?
So John, Corporal Harland, Captain Keyes, they all get debriefed on Reach with all these shadowy figures. You can't see them. They're the United Nations Space Command Security Council. They're all big-name generals, admirals. I know some of them, Colonel Ackerson, he's on it. Rear Admiral Margaret Orlinda Parangoski, she's the head of ONI, and she is no one to screw with. Like, she's an old lady, but when she didn't have puppies as pets, she had scorpions. You don't mess with Admiral Parangoski. Never do it. She is cold-hearted in the books. Like, in the future, she executes a dude for failure. Like, she's like, you messed up. She gets out her sidearm because she's like 80 years old, and she carries a sidearm and kills him right there. Don't mess with her. She is the most powerful woman in the UNSC, bar none.
So, like, ONI is like the CIA, pretty much.
Yeah. They're the ones who came up with the Spartan program. They do all the shadowy stuff in the dark, and they are freaking evil.
Was Locke part of Oni?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. Ward Hood, Fleet Admiral Hood, he's the head of pretty much the entire UNSC military at this point. He's on the council. And they get debriefed, and Ackerson is just being an ass the entire time. Like, he's like, what do you expect from one of Halsey's wind-up soldiers? And Hood jumps to John's defense. He's like, shut your mouth, Ackerson. This man has earned enough respect, even from you. Like, he has every major commendation the UNSC offers. Instead, this is true, he has everyone except the Prisoner of War medallion.
Yep.
So, yeah.
He got the Purple Heart in that mission to kidnap Watts.
And after he hears about the Covenant, he's not really proud of it anymore.
Yeah.
All these people are dead. And
Yeah, after he sees everybody die, he's like, yeah, this is... Yeah.
He doesn't care about the awards. He just wants to fight and serve.
And he hates wearing his dress
He does.
uniform because it has all those medals on it.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it.
He would much rather be in his armor.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Then Halsey is like, she meets Chief before she goes in to also talk with the council because they want her opinion on what the alien stuff they found on that rock. And she's like, Chief, it's good to see you again. How would you like a mission? One that may save humanity and end the war. He's like, of course, ma'am. And Captain Keyes tells him something too. Like, they talk, and he's like,
Hey, good to see you again. Well, I've never met you before in my life, sir.
yeah, that happens. And he's like, actually, we have met, but I'm not really allowed to talk about it. And he's like, okay, I understand, sir.
Yeah, back when... hell, I can't tell you about that.
Yeah.
He says.
Can't talk. But yeah, he tells Chief that winning isn't everything. And Chief is just baffled by that. He's like, well, the only thing you can do other than win is lose. He'll realize what he actually meant later on.
You just gotta end the fight.
Yeah.
You don't have to kill everyone.
Chief only knows how to kill everyone, though.
You point me, I kill. He's like a... What do you call it? The Russian guys.
Spetsnaz?
The Russian CIA.
KGB.
Yeah, he's like a KGB agent.
Yeah, pretty much. So they get briefed on Operation Red Flag, which, like Riley said, they're going to capture a Covenant warship. They're going to take it to the Covenant homeworld, kidnap their leaders, bring them back, and force a ceasefire. But first, they need some better gear. So they get Milner Mark V armor, which, unlike Mark IV, it has the ability to carry a shipboard smart AI in the suit of armor. Normally, these things are on a huge kilometer-long spaceship, but it can fit in a 7-foot-tall suit of armor. It also has recharging energy shields, which is the first time the UNSC ever has this technology ever.
And I didn't know they pulled that from the Jackal shields.
Mm-hmm. That's where they developed them from.
Yeah.
Like, throughout the war, the Spartans have been collecting whatever Covenant tech they could, and Oni's been fiddling around with it, trying to get it to work.
Mm-hmm.
See, one thing, the Covenant are imitative, not innovative, and humanity has a much higher understanding of physics, but it's very hard for us to use that understanding practically. So, we have some advantages, like our computer systems are a whole lot better, but throughout the war, the Covenant start getting better because of what they are able to develop from us.
Right.
But yeah, that's some technology.
Well,
talk.
like, their whole army consists of, like, 4 or 5 different races, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, they take a planet and they're like, oh, your people are going to fight for us now.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they just copy everything.
Pretty much. So yeah, Master Chief runs through a obstacle course that features ODST drop troopers, who are the best of the best that aren't augmented. 30mm chain guns again, a minefield, and an airstrike. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
He has Cortana the whole time, and she's helping him out and flirting with him at the same time. And
As you do.
as Cortana does. And he's like, all right, Cortana, we're basically fucked if you don't help me slap this missile out of my face. So the jet fires a missile at him.
Calculate the
speed of me.
Incoming speed of the missile as I sidestep and backhand
Yes.
to the side.
And he does it. He bitch slaps a missile. It knocks him out for like a couple seconds. Then Cortana's like, "Get up and run! It's coming back!" So he runs.
They're coming for another pass.
He runs. He feels his Achilles tendon tear, and he punches the bell and dents it. And he's like, "I win." And then the radio comes up, and Halsey's like, "Come off your dog, Zackerson. We've won."
He looks at the bell, and it's the same bell he rang.
Yeah.
He rang
back in boot
in the playground.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was a cool part. Oh yeah. Then we have this part where Cortana is introduced, really, and she's chilling with Halsey, and they're talking about what ship they're going to use for red flag and stuff, and that's when we first meet Cortana, by the way. I think that was a little bit before. Here we see Cortana again, and she's aboard the ship they're using, the Pillar of Autumn, which is a cruiser. And she's
really souped up ship.
Oh yeah, it was an old mediocre design. Oni made it not mediocre and very, very good.
Wouldn't it be like the first of many of that kind?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this became the mainline cruiser for the United Nations Space Command Navy.
I knew I remembered that.
Yeah. So,
lots of armor, lots of guns.
Yeah, they said that it can lose 90% of its hull.
2 mag cannons?
No, it has 1, but it fires 3 times on 1 charge.
Yeah. 3 reactors, 2 small and 1 big.
Yeah, they supercharge it and cool the system. It's very efficient.
Yeah.
And it's the main thing about this ship is it can take a beating. Like I said, it can lose 90% of its hull integrity and still fight.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she's aboard and they're going over like system checks, and Keyes is like, "I want to power to move the ship." And you see Keyes' perspective, and they're like having all these conversations and stuff, but while they're doing that, Cortana is basically having all these philosophical thoughts and stuff, like, because she's a smart AI, she can literally do billions of calculations a second. So while she's doing that, she hacks into the UNSC's network and pretty much fucks with Ackerson as much as possible.
Oh yeah.
She sends a bank statement that'll go to his house to his wife about him spending money at a brothel on another world. And then
he's gonna get like stationed somewhere else. Or
she forges a transfer request for him to go back to field work.
And she also like does a background check on John. And tries to find out like who he is.
Yeah, she discovers the truth about the Spartan-II program too, because she didn't know that they were kids kidnapped.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure she deletes it too, because she's like, if they found out I found this, I could get in a lot of trouble. They may delete me. So. Delete. So yeah, next chapter, Lieutenant Hikola is giving Keyes the tour of the Autumn about how badass that ship is. So they're like, all right, let's get ready to go. We're going to go capture a ship, Operation Red Flag. Let's save humanity. Captain, incoming Alpha priority transmission from FleetCom HQ at Reach. Sir, they're under Covenant attack. Oh
no.
Oh no. So then we get a chapter. It goes to, this is a series of communications between a codenamed coal miner and codenamed surgeon. Their Office of Naval Intelligence.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what in the world was going on with this chapter.
Okay, yeah. Basically, their surgeon is over a program called Operation Hypodermic, and those ships that, remember, they still had their navigational data intact, and John had to go to that station to delete them at the end of the book.
Oh, yeah.
Circumference and all. Mm-hmm. They were actually Oni stealth ships, and this, since Cortana hacked into the system, she used these ships to piggyback, and they thought that someone was trying to look up stuff on Operation Hypodermic, so they deleted everything about these ships on the network. So when the calls went out to enact Cole Protocol and delete all the nav data, these ships weren't on it. So that's why John had to go do it. So that's the whole reason for this. The ships were stealth ships, and they were going to go behind lines and scout out Covenant space pretty much. But it doesn't really work because they get destroyed because they still have intact navigational data, and they can't let that fall into Covenant hands.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole thing of this chapter. You get it?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. Then we get a chapter of another sensor outpost, like with Lovell when we first meet him. But this one, they know it's Covenant. It is a huge ass fleet of Covenant ships, 300 ships, and they're all right on top of them. Basically, the head of this place, he knows we don't have time to delete everything, so it's been an honor, guys, and sets the reactor to blow them all sky high. They warn Reach. They tell him that, hey, Covenant's coming. Get ready. And this isn't going to be a just easy fight for the Covenant, because unlike a lot of other planets, Reach has orbital...
Heavily fortified.
Yeah. It has 20 orbital Mac guns, and these are much bigger than the ones...
They're super Mac guns.
Yeah. They're much bigger than the ones on the ships. Let me give it to you this way. A Mac round from a ship is rated at 64 kilotons of TNT. The Super Macs have faster fire rates, and their rounds are rated at 51.1 gigatons of TNT per shot.
Okay.
Physics nerds more into physics than me have theorized that if a ship was capable of absorbing all that with its shields, it would still be crushed by all that energy. It is... They fire every 5 seconds, too.
So basically, BB gun versus 50 cal sniper round.
Yeah, pretty much. These things, a round can go through a fully shielded Covenant ship, go through a one behind it, and still have enough energy to go and cripple a third behind it. So these things are... The Covenant, at first, they just try to charge right at them, and they have more of those mobile shipyards to use as shields again.
So, like, if those guns are so great, could they not, like, make better guns for the ships, too? Like I'm not saying, like, at that magnitude, but, like...
The main thing here is power. They need power to charge the guns.
Oh,
and
yeah, that's true.
There are some ships who mount Supermax on them, but the Punic, the Trafalgar they talk about, the head of the ship, the fleet at Reach, it has 2 of them mounted. It's 4 kilometers long.
Good gosh.
Yeah. But, I mean, the charge times for them are just super long compared to the orbital guns. Yeah. And the resources to make a lot of ships like that would be very heavily straining. Like, they don't even have these much anywhere else because they didn't think they would be as effective as they are. Because as soon as Reach falls, Earth gets 300 of them. Like, they are like, holy crap, these things work really well. They're powered by generators on the ground, too. Like, they broadcast the power up there. Somehow, that's some type of future tech I'm too stupid to understand.
I guess.
I mean, there's prototype broadcast
It's that
power.
NASA Wi-Fi.
Yeah. 91 gigs a second. So, yeah, they're really good guns.
How would you broadcast power?
I don't know. See... It's been an idea for a long time because G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, had something like that for one of their specials. Like the movie, the G.I. Joe movie had that. That was one of the big main things about it, yeah. Not the live action one. I'm talking about Real American Hero 80s G.I. Joe.
Well, like, you know the phone chargers today?
Yeah,
you set
exactly.
your phone on it. I guess it's kind of like that almost.
It's like that. They're just transferring energy to data and sending it through the internet or something. I don't know. If you're really smart and you get the concept, put it in the comments. If you're this far into the video. Okay, so
it's not a guarantee.
Yeah, really not. This is a really long one. I'm sorry. Let's get through this. Okay, so while the Covenant suicide charged and then fell back due to those guns, the Autumn is in an asteroid field dueling a Covenant ship that's bigger than them, but they still win because the Autumn is really freaking good.
Yep.
And they head for Reach to rendezvous, and they see a new Covenant ship arrive, a super cruiser, and it has an energy projector that outranges the huge Mac guns that shoot super far, super fast. And it's been jumps in, it'll fire and like cut a ship in half, and then jump away when the Mac guns try and take them out. So Keyes is like, all right, let's do this.
Gosh. Thought you broke your neck.
I did too for a second. So Keyes takes it upon himself to take it out, and he sends the Spartans on a mission because the Covenants are sending ground troops just like they did at Sigma Octanus. And they're everywhere. Like FleetCom HQ was like, holy crap, they just showed up. There goes the armory. We need help. Like, they got a lot of men and a lot of troops, a lot of support things down fast. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. And Reach had like 300 million personnel from the UNSC on it, so they had a lot. They did.
It's those powerful grunts, you know.
Yeah, they just trillions of them.
Get them!
Imagine a trillion grunts running at you with plasma
Suicide
grenades.
plasma grenades? Yeah.
So Fred leads the majority of Spartans to the ground. They have to protect the generators powering the orbital guns, because if they go down, the fleet is already
Reach goes down.
Yeah, the fleet, they've lost most of their ships already. So without the guns, they basically have nothing.
They've already blown out like 5 of them, I think.
Yeah, they lost 5 out of 20.
Yeah.
Okay, and John, Linda, and James go to the station, Gamma Station, where those ships from Surgeon and Coal Miner were. They still have intact navigational data, and they can't let that fall into the Covenant's hands. So Chief goes there, and while he does that, Keyes engages the Covenant supercruiser, and he does the same trick, kinda, where he uses emergency boosters. But now that he has an AI, Cortana scans the ship, and as soon as there's a spike in energy, she activates an emergency booster, and they dodge it. And this thing is moving way faster than light, so that's impressive. And he sends out a remote-controlled longsword that has a nuke on it, and as soon as the thing fires, it goes underneath their shields and detonates, and the shields hold, but all the force of the nuke is contained.
I remember him saying, "I've never
wished for the Covenant shields to hold as long as this."
So the nuke detonates inside the ship. The shields go back into place, and it's all contained in the ship.
So he turns back around and goes to pick up the Spartans because he expects them to be done. But the Covenant had way more ground forces than expected, and a comm goes out. Fred is like, there's too many. The generators are going to fall. We will have to use the nukes we have. And that'll EMP the generators and cut off the power anyway. So they're basically screwed. And Chief fights an elite in hand-to-hand, and that's a pretty cool fight. Because, I mean, it's just as strong as he is. And like, he grabs its arm, and it's just, he describes it as iron-hard muscle. Like, the thing's pure muscle.
Oh, inside the hallway?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're in 0G too, so that's really hard.
Okay, they end up in the bay where these ships are, and Johnson is there with a couple Marines, and he's fighting to...
Yeah, we see Sergeant Johnson.
Yeah, Sergeant Johnson. Move it! Corps ain't paying you by the hour.
They're kind of just, like, spraying wildly.
Yeah. Because there's so many Covenant after them. Because there's a bunch of jackals, and they're trying to throw grenades, but the jackals have their shields, and are just, like, ping-ponging the grenades away.
Yeah.
Linda starts sniping them, though, because she can hit the gap, like, right over the shields, because she's that good. And she gets very injured, though. Like, she takes a bunch of plasma rounds. They destroy the nav data. Johnson, Chief, and Linda all escape. Linda is immediately put into cryo, as is John and all non-essential crew members.
Don't worry, she'll be back.
Yeah, in Operation First Strike. She ain't dead yet. She never does. It's been Halo 5's out.
Yeah, Halo 5.
Yeah, she's in Halo 5. So that's pretty much the end of the book. Kind of got fast there, but I mean, we're getting close on the second hour mark, so we need to.
Well, it ends with them finding the halo.
Yeah, we get an epilogue scene where it's pretty much the opening scene of Halo Combat Evolved with the Pillar of Autumn seeing the Halo ring. And this book explains that Cortana figured out that alien language from Sigma Octanus was a set of coordinates.
Yeah.
With the Cole Protocol, they're supposed to make a random slipspace jump away from any inhabited systems by humanity.
It wasn't completely random, but it was within the parameters of the Cole Protocol.
So she takes them there, and that pretty much saves humanity because they find Halo and all those events set forth.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the book. It's very good.
It is a very good book.
It sets a very good backstory for Halo, the Cole Protocol. I mean,
$8.99. It's worth every penny.
We didn't even that much. It was like $4 on.
Oh, for us, yeah, we got it on thrift books.
Thrift books.
Yeah, good stuff though.
Yeah, and this is the 2010 printing. It has some tie-ins to Halo Legends and the Halo Reach video game at the end.
Bungie's trying to cover their own ass.
I've said this to Riley before he read this, how I didn't like how the Halo Reach game, we both loved that game. We didn't like how it's not this book.
At all.
Yeah. It messes up the lore a lot.
Would you say the Noble Team was Spartan-IIIs?
Yeah. Except for George. He was a Spartan-II too.
Oh.
Yeah. That's
he's
why
really big.
Yeah, that's why he's super big, and why he calls he knows Dr. Halsey. When you remember when they meet and he's like, Mom?
Mom?
Yeah, the Spartans do consider her their mother figure. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So yeah. That's Halo, The Fall of Reach by Eric Nylund. Hopefully, when we do other books in this series, these episodes won't be as long. I will really try to stop using so many details. I just know it so well.
We love the details, Wyatt.
We do.
I threw in some.
You did. You even corrected me once. I'm very proud of you for that.
Thank you. Well, I did just read it.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Yep.
And we will see you on the next one, Halo the Flood.
Yep. That is a can of worms. Yeah.